Well, it's been 15 years since the last federal tax increase, but an Obama victory in November could see a quick end to that. My next guest says that's bad for baby boomers who might see their pensions wash away in a tide of Democratic tax hikes. With us now, Americans for Tax Reform President Grover Norquist. President Grover Norquist. I kind of like President Norquist because you're a flat taxer and tax cutter like me. Why not?
Absolutely. Later, another time.
Later, another time. Now, you know what, Mr. Norquist, what really flew under the radar screen was the fact that the first baby boomer retired January 1st. Now, why do you think President Obama would wreck it for baby boomers?
Well, so much of Obama's economic thinking is back in the 1930s and 1950s. He doesn't understand that for most Americans, baby boomers and younger, their pensions are not defined benefit pensions the way General Motors organized it or the post office, but defined contribution pensions, 401ks, individual retirement accounts, personal savings accounts, mutual funds that Americans put their money into in order to have money for retirement. When Obama makes the list of all the tax increases he's putting, and he claims that only Teddy Kennedy and rich people will pay this, what he's really talking about doing is increasing the dividend payments in your 401ks and IRAs from 15% to 35%, the cap gains tax from 15% to 20 immediately.
Right.
He's talked about 28 as a good
So, you know, here we go.
percentage.
Here we go. We're probably going to have to work until we drop dead. We're not going to get the Social Security we paid in for. And Democrats
Correct.
are going to get their mitts on our tax dollars with their leave no bureaucrat behind acts. And, you know, talk about it's pointing the country toward a national nervous breakdown. We have an oil shock, a credit crisis, and now possibly tax hikes to deal with. And this, to my mind, would really throw a lead blanket on the markets. But what we're talking about here is this big tangled fishing line pile that is the U.S. tax code. No reform going on right now, certainly not under a Democrat. And you have, you know, when Clinton, you know, raised taxes on the upper bracket, it brought in less revenues than a tax cut on capital gains and the death tax. I mean, what is the thinking here? What is going on?
Well, this is unfortunate that some political leaders, and Obama is one of these politicians, are more interested in envy than in economic growth. It's more important to them to punish success and hard work and investing than to have a growing economy. We know from 2001 and 2003 and from the Kennedy tax cut and the Coolidge tax cuts and the Reagan cuts that with the capital gains tax, the government actually gets more revenue because of economic growth.
Now, Grover, I got to tell you something. We know that Obama has said that he is a deficit hawk. But I can assure you, if it's a Democrat Congress and a Democrat in the White House, deficit cutting would be last on the list because there's always more pork to be found, more programs to be started, more regulations to be written to control our lives. Give them more money, and they will spend it. What do you think about that?
Deficit hawk is a code word for I will raise your taxes and I will also spend more money. Every time a politician has said he was a deficit hawk, they raise taxes and they raise spending. In 1990, remember, the deficit hawks talked Bush into raising taxes for promised spending restraint. There was no promised spending restraint. Look at the governors. Mark Warner of Virginia raised taxes and raised...
Yeah, that pork wagon ran right over taxpayers. I want to ask you, tell the viewer why Obama would raise taxes on the middle class. Spell it out for them. This is important.
But every American who has a 401k, an IRA, a mutual fund, that's 60% of adults, own money in the stock market in a 401k, an IRA, a mutual fund. The value of your stocks will decline when the capital gains tax jumps up, as Obama wishes it to, as the tax on dividends snaps from 15 up to 35%.
And you're leaving out the Social Security tax. Payroll tax would hit more of the middle class. He wants to hike payroll taxes.
Every small business in America.
Well,
every small business in America.
That's right. Thank you, Grover. Join us again. We want to talk to you again as this election really comes down our way. We want you back on. You're terrific. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
The U.S. is reaching out to North Korea.